very much, Norman, and good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see you all here. Let me welcome you to the 8th seminar in the International PhD Progress Seminar Series, Phase 3, organised by the Global South Network. That's January to August 2024. I'd like to thank the organiser for this weekly seminar series. That's the person who's just spoken, Dr. Nauman Reayat. He's a lecturer here at Leicester Law School, founder and convener of the GSN, the Global South Network. He's also discussant today, I think, Norman, aren't you? Now, your research interests otherwise lie in the area of constitutionalism and the rule of law, judicialisation of politics, judicial independence in developing democracies. So we look forward to hearing from you in a little while. I should introduce myself. My name is Ed Bates. I'm an academic here at Leicester Law School. My real interest and passion is in European human rights law. I've just completed a book with some colleagues on Russia's exit from the European human rights system, and a book on, which is a textbook on the law of European human rights, according to the Strasbourg Court, the European Court of Human Rights. But you're not here to hear me. I'll introduce our speaker in just a moment, but allow me also to introduce the peer commentator for today. That's Ying Zheng, who is a PhD student here within Leicester Law School. Her PhD research topic is in corporate governance in China. It's entitled Corporate Governance in China, Political Determinants, Challenges and Solutions. Before coming to Leicester, Ying obtained a master's degree with merit from the University of Sheffield and did her undergraduate degree at China University of Labour Relations. During her time at Sheffield, she mainly focused on the implementation of corporate social responsibility in China and in the UK. And she completed a dissertation under the title of Promotion of CSR, Corporate Social Responsibility through Company Law and Corporate Governance, a comparison of English law and Chinese law. Okay, but we're really here to hear our speaker, and thank you for bearing with us as I go through all these introductions. I hope and apologise in advance if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. Please do correct me. Peilin Lei, our speaker from our guest speaker today, who is a PhD candidate at the School of History here at the University of Leicester. He's going to present on, again, please correct me, Jianghu Social Organization between China and Japan, 1930 to 1945. We see the slide already on screen, and it looks very intriguing, and the title to your presentation as well. So the format is that the speaker has around 30 to 35 minutes for their presentation, which will be followed by 5 minutes for comments or questions by the discussant and peer commentator, and then opportunities in 15 minutes or so for questions from the floor, and I'm sure there'll be many. So without further ado, let me hand over and thank you very much in advance to our speaker, who I see has the presentation ready to go. So we're looking forward to hearing from you for the next half hour or so. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Best and Nauman, and also the mentor Ying. Thank you so much. It's a nice pleasure to have a presentation here. I had to say and apologize. My talk might be a little different from my title, which is the Jianghu, the Social Organization between China and Japan. It's because that's the title of my thesis. But if I just talk about all the historical details, could be quite boring. Briefly, these few words to introduce my thesis, my study, is just to make sure this is not a lie. to just like talking something else. My study is about the common people under the war situation. The main body is the social organization, which is no-government organization during the occupied Tianjin in North China, very close to Beijing. During the Sino-Japanese War, a part of World War II, and how the people live in that period. That's the main question, what I focus on in my thesis. But today, I just want to focus on one tiny, I can say it's tiny compared to the war between the two countries, like a regional military conflict within one city. happened in Tianjin in 1931, which is called the Tianjin incident. Tianjin is like the south coast of Beijing, which is at that moment in 1931, Beijing is not the capital, but it's a very important political city. We played the character of capital for a very long time in Ming Qing dynasty and also the early Republic era. And also because the treaty and the colonialism and tourism during the long 19th century, Tianjin is a treaty port. A treaty port means this city be opened, forcibly opened, as a harbor, a harbor for commerce for allow the foreign force to come in and trade with the local people, but mainly the Qing government though. And at the same time, Tianjin have a lot of what we call foreign concession. Foreign concession is like a specific area that directly listen to the, for example, British, UK or France or Japan, the foreign powers. They have the right of, they have their own police force, they have their law system, they have their own municipal council or government. It's like a tiny government. I think at the beginning of 20th century, after Boxer Rebellion, this 9 foreign concessions brought in this tiny city, which is called Tianjin, and it's very complicated, have a very complicated international relationship within one place. That's why it makes it very interesting. Oh, let's tell just history is like doing study by telling story. Let's just tell a story about this Tianjin incident. Tianjin incident happened in 1931, November. So just 2 months after was more well known, it's called Mukden incident, the Manzhou Shibian or Manchurian incident. What happened is like Japan, for their interest in Northeast China. I'm not sure the map is good enough. It's like far northeast from Beijing, and they, for their own interest, it caused an incident in Shenyang and start to invade North China, and that's what happened. And that really have a very strong reaction of meet the policy of Kuomintang, which is the government in 1931, to rise their nationalism policies. The media is shocked by the open invasion of Japan. People are very angry about it. And it's pretty complicated in Tianjin, because in Tianjin, even is a part of the Nanjing government, which is controlled by Kuomintang, but it has its local power, which is controlled by what we call Feng clique. Feng clique is the warlord, control northeast, also Beijing, Tianjin, North China. Officially, they gaining this position by cooperate with Kuomintang in the earlier war. We're going to come back to this later. So let's back to the incident. What happened is in the November 8th, the midnight, November 8th, there's some gunshot happened in the city, very hot of the city center. And the Tianjin government already know what's going to happen, and they got well prepared. The police forces showed up, and there's some riot with rifle, pistol, and rise up and try to attack the police station and the government. But because the police force is well prepared, the riot is not success. It's just suppressed very instantly. And and they caught some rioters, and they spit it out to say what was their plan. It's like this riot is organized by Japan. In fact, is because also they got it the proof of they have the rifle from Japan and from especially northeast, which is occupied by Japan partly. And they also say some name called Shioshan or some Chinese name, and they are it's like a disillusioned militaries. They are defeated by the previous war. They live in Tianjin at this moment. So this has become not only some, roid, and in China, with China, has become something international. And at the same night, the Japanese consul, just French consul, knocked the door at midnight to the Japanese consulate and say, okay, I just received a phone from the leader of the province from Chinese government. We get notice we have a gunfight in Tianjin, which is very close to French concession. Could you please explain to me what happened? And the reaction of the Japanese consul is like, what? They have no idea what happened. This only just raw within Chinese. They never heard any information from the other Japanese army or something. They're also very confused about it. So what exactly happened is, let's talk about Japan first. Japan, this incident is planned by KA, which is called Kwantung Army. Kwantung Army is the army that belongs to the Imperial Japanese Army that invade northeast China, and they after they occupied a part of Manchuria, and they want to build an informal empire. They don't want to directly control this area like Korea. They just invade Korea earlier and occupy the country, but they don't want to do the same thing in Manchuria because it's too costly. Running a colony is very costly things. It's empire. So they want, at the same time, the last empire, Puyi, the last Qing empire, just live in Tianjin, and they want to take him away and move it to Manchuria to become not just like a rebuild the Qing dynasty as a part of the informal empire. That's Kwantung Army's plan, and the Manchuria incident is such a watershed of relationship between China and Japan at this stage, because the army do not really tell everything to Tokyo. For example, the Manchuria incident is not allowed by Tokyo, but they just do it by themselves because it's so profitable. Because the Chinese army is so weak, and they think they can, take advantage from it, and so they just did it, and they sent Doihla Kenji in Chinese, 土肥原贤二 to Tianjin to take away Puyi. That's their plan. But they know, Tokyo know the plan of taking Puyi, but they have no idea how they're going to do it. So that's why the awkward situation happened. Japanese government have no idea what this Japanese army doing, and they had to explain to the French, "Oh, we don't mean to it. I'm not. We have no idea about it. We never get confused. I think it's the Chinese things, not about us." And at this stage, we also cannot simplify it to Japan as the Tokyo Japanese government and the army. Army also have different cliques. For example, station in Tianjin is called the Garrison Army. They stationed here since 1901. I think after Boxer Rebellion, it's been staying here for 30 years. And they also tempted by what Kwantung Army doing in Northeast. They want to do something similar in Tianjin. They want to take over Tianjin. It's a huge credit, nice achievement. They can get level up. They're looking for that. So Kwantung Army tell the plan to the Garrison Army, the local army. Anyway, Tokyo have no idea about it. That's the situation in Japan. And let's come back to the China. The China also very, how can I say, in a very disunity situation. Just the last year, from 1931, 1930, is a huge war called the Central Plain War, happened between the Zhili clique, is another warlord. They got defeated by Kuomintang and Fengtian clique. But because Kuomintang, which is Chiang Kai-shek's power, his power is more like in Shanghai and Anhui, that area. They're more south, it's in the South China, not in the North China. So they just give the authority to the Fengtian clique, which holding Beijing, Tianjin, North China, and Northeast China. So they just let their people to rule this area, but namely they're under the same government. At this moment, Fengtian clique is holding Tianjin, and they have in the Tianjin incident, they just lose their homeland, which is the Northeast China. They're very angry about it because the no resist policy announced by Chiang Kai-shek. Chiang Kai-shek said you can't fight against Japan. We're not going to win it. You had to control the situation, keep it low. You just retreat to the North China, just leave the Northeast apart. But the general from the Fengtian clique is angry about it, and they got, because Tianjin is military control at the moment. The military generals just take over is running the government, local government. So the Tianjin police is not simple a police. They have, machine guns. They have armored car. They have cavalry. They have they're more powerful than a normal police, not like London or somewhere. So they have the power to fight against Japanese activities. So they against the law, the order from Chiang Kai-shek. Okay, you do not fight any Japanese. Okay, do not do that. But they say the royal, because the royal, most of them are Chinese people. So they just start a conflict with them. This conflict, in fact, last for I think a month. Just 2 days after the start of the war, the Puyi was taken away by Japan to the Manchuria for the Manchuria kingdom for the rebuild of Qing dynasty. But this war continued. It's like it's not finished. It's kind of weird, because if on the Japanese hand, there's no reason to keep fighting, because they finished their mission. It's just took Puyi. That's their main target. Because who really joined, who doing this right, who really right? The writer is not Japanese. It's Chinese people. They are defeated militarists from previous war. If you remember, I know it's pretty confused. A lot of people and a lot of clique during this situation. And if I mentioned during the Central Plain War, there's a lot of warlords defeated just during the war, and they're living in Tianjin. And the Japan like to give them a hand. They plan to rise the road against the local government, which is controlled by the Fengtian clique, the other militaries. And Japan give them weapon, give them military support, create a nice situation, international situation for them. They're gonna push the Chinese government not to fight. But they also have their own plan. They want to, overturn these local government. They want to retake their power. And they also connect the local green gun, which is the hooligan, local mafia. They have a lot of unemployed people in Tianjin at the moment. They just give them guns. Many of them are drug user. It's just give them drug money to employ a bunch of people, arm them, and let them to do the right. So, in fact, from this perspective, it's like is that a war? It's a very interesting question because even the Sino-Japanese War, the Chiang Kai-shek government officially announced war to Japan in 1941, just after Americans do that, because the Pearl Harbor attack that make start the Pacific War led the American against Japan. But after that, Chiang Kai-shek officially announced the war to Japan. But before that, as everyone knows, the warfare already started. There already a huge amount of military, combat in China, a wide range of battle in China. Met so many people that, and so many people, so a huge area that all East China is controlled by Japan. So is that a war at the stage of 1931? Diplomatically, not really, but it is a conflict between two countries. So this incident, by reviewing this historical war, I think can just bring us thinking about what's the nature of war, what's the nature of conflict between countries and peoples. Because anyway, the war is not really far from us, isn't it? It's like, think about the Russia, Ukraine, and also the Palestine, what happened in Palestine. It's like I think, just please just point me out if I made anything a mistake. Is that I think Israel not really officially announced a war against Palestine at this stage. Is that attacking the terror in Palestine? It's like a anti-terrorist activities. It's not diplomatically. It's like this case I mentioned. It's not a official war between these two countries. But what it did is in fact it's a war. It's definitely a war. People died. City got damaged. People lose their families, their friends. People dies, and because war is very complicated. Like my example shows, it's it's a very interesting. So in fact, it's like what's the detail? Is that if something happened, it's not only a country against another country. It's like it's gunfire. It's launching missiles. It's an explosion. It's a destruction. It's not only a fight between two ideologies. So war is happening. We can see like it's just in the University of Leicester. You can see the Palestinian flag, the national flag. You can see some flag in the physical building. I think if you go to the Bennett building from there's a lot of flags. Also the parade to stop the war, free the Palestine. We see a lot of this thing in this era. It's happening in UK. Many people get together and against the war from Palestine. So it's also a war on the media. It's also in Japan, as I can see the news. But war also actually happened with detail, complicated on the land of Palestine. So it's actually happened. So it's also my case also raises a lot of questions about the war. For example, you can see the war just involve different colleagues, the local power, the government, also the army and the government. They not always share the same mind. So, for example, what's the relationship between Hamas and Palestinian government? What's the relationship between the Israel and the local force? And they have any channel of communication? So a lot of things we have no idea. So maybe to knowing the fact what's happening, maybe we need some time for them half century or maybe too long or something. To see the fact when the archives be classified, or what's the plan in Russia, or in in Moscow, how they plan this war, how's the relationship between Putin and the military, the army, and how they deal with kind of thing, how they decide things. There's a lot of questions waiting to be answered in the war, especially the war. War is a very crucial part in human history. This happens all the time, and I think just need more study on it, and we need to start. I really understand it's definitely have sympathy of the people get invaded or lose their family or something. But anyway, I think we might need more information to think about the war, to understand the situation will be happening by looking back. So I think how many time I spent, is that too short, or there? I think that's the main things of my presentation, I guess.
Thank you. You're within time if you wanted to go through the other slides, or just to give an indication of what.
It's like showing Kenya's foreign is a very international city. So you can see the different architecture, the different style building within one city. It's a not very big city. You only have, I think, about 100,000 people at that moment. And let me tell more about Tianjin. How about it's like let's come back to the map of Tianjin. It's like the Chinese area is at the west of the city, in fact, it's the center of the city. If you put in the whole city, it's like, and the Japanese concession is the east of it, and the French concession is the east of the Japanese concession. So from the French concession, they can clearly hear the gunfire. They have no idea what happened and why they are the first one to go to Japan's council to, argue about it. And also this kind of thing also become a battlefield. Media also become a battlefield. From the Japanese media, it's like they only talk about the damage in the Japanese concession, how their people, the people hold the Japanese people suffer from this road, from this gunfire, how this city, the Japanese concession, been damaged by the bomb, by the gun, and how people suffering. They focus on this part, but the Chinese media is like arguing just about the war that Japan started. Also there's many other foreign power in the city. They're also also the reason that led Japan do not want to invade Tianjin directly, because they're gonna definitely offend the other countries like the UK, like France, like at the moment also Italy. There are a lot of the other foreign powers within the city, and the timeline of what happened, the warfare in China, but it's too much detail. I think I can just skip it. It's like, this is Feng Tianklik. The left one is Zhang Xueliang, the son of Zhang Zuolian, who is he's very young, at the age very young, to manage his huge Feng Tian warlord clique. It's very big. And the right one is Zhang Xueming. He is the brother of Zhang Xueliang. He's the mayor of Tianjin at that moment. So Tianjin at that moment is highly linked to the Feng Tian army rather than just a local government. That's the Tianjin police force. You can see they have grenade launcher, they have cavalry. They're more like half police and half army at that moment. And because Tianjin is like a very heart of the northern warlords, if we, from the perspective of Kuomintang or Chiang Kai-sheng's perspective, just out of his power, out of his territory. So they are not very, so military is very, especially for Tianjin is like the I know Shanghai is famous, but at 1930s, Tianjin is the second important financial city at the moment because there's a lot of foreign power. They have foreign banks, have foreign financial system. A lot of British like HSBC have a branch in Tianjin. It's very from economy. It's very important. This is the Kwantung Army when they arrive in northeast, and this is Doihela Kenji. By the way, it's very interesting fact that Doihela Kenji is a member of the Green Gang, is a member of local mafia. Through this kind of social network, that's the part I going to talk about in my thesis. That's the social organization I mentioned. My thesis is quite interesting fact. Before they do occupy Tianjin with their force and military force, before they invasion, they do some penetration work by connect with the local community and people, and even mafia can help them to organize their informal empire. This is the garrison army headquarters in Tianjin. And this is the so-called disillusioned militarists who defeated from the previous war. The last one called Zhang Bi, he also a head of the Green Gang. Green Gang is a kind of national mafia in China, but in fact it's more fragmental. It's not have a leader, a national leader, Chinese to be. It's like within the city who's the biggest one. And they can connect with this kind of, so we can put it in as a social network rather than a single organization because there's not a head. And this is Green Gang in Shanghai. Of course, Green Gang, Shanghai is the biggest, how can I say, base of Green Gang. If, for example, Du Yuesheng, who's cooperates the Chiang Kai-shek, and they really have deep cooperation. For example, when 1937, Chiang Kai-shek tried to eliminate the CCP, Communist Party, they just use the Green Gang power. They don't really want to use their own army or police force at a very early stage. This is like use the mafia power to try to kill all the communists, but they failed. This is a Qingbang head, Green Gang head in Tianjin, who is take part in this raid. And Green Gang is very interesting because Green Gang in Tianjin is introduced by warlords, but with the military defeat, the defeat by the Kuomintang, they lose their power. Also, the Green Gang in Tianjin also lose their power. At this stage, they do not have any political background to support them in the local scale. So Japan definitely a nice chance for them. They want to take them because Japan provide money and people, political influence and weapon. And so they have they show a pro-Japanese attitude at a very early stage. And that's why a lot of Reuters is from the Green Gang. That's the slide, and it's a.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Well, unless you wanted to say a couple of things by way of conclusion, we can perhaps hand over to the discussant. But if you wanted to say a couple of words by way of conclusion, feel free to do so.
Oh, thank you. So, like, I just talked too much about my thesis. It's not very related to the war, but anyway, just my conclusion is about the war, the complexity of the war. It's you need more sources, you need more observation, you need more studies. So not only don't like the ideology, overall everything. That's my conclusion, my talk today. Thank you so much.
Well, it's for us to thank you. Thank you very much for taking us through that most interesting insight to events of, well, nearly 100 years ago, 97, 96 or so years ago, and nearly a century ago. It's very thought-provoking. Thank you. I think it's then for me to hand over to either our discussant, who would be Nauman, or possibly after that or before. But Nauman, you look as if you're ready to speak, so I'll hand over to you.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Peilin, for such an insightful presentation. Thank you all for attending the session or watching it. Thank you, Ed, for agreeing to chair the session. And I think, first of all, let me respond to this question, that why this history topic, what is doing it among the people from the law background. I think I slightly disagree with you, Peilin, that it's not related to law. It just depends upon how you look at the history. And when it comes to my field, comparative constitutional law, I till date didn't come across any single constitutional document, including the UK constitutional documents, that has no history of wars. Okay, so there's always constitutions, different process they come into being, but one of the main reason is the war. I think when it comes to Japan and China, the Japanese constitution, Chinese constitution, both have roots in these wars between China and Japan. For example, Article 1 of Chinese constitution, 3 principles of people, Minzu, Mingguan, Wenxing, nationalism, democracy, and people. If you see the constitutional debates of these constitutional processes going back to early 20th century in the Chinese constitution, it goes back to all these first Sino-Chinese war, second Sino-Chinese war, and that's why it has a very clear link. And this was the reason that I just want to go deep into these nature and the scope of war between China and Japan to better understand the Japanese and Chinese constitution. Now, the Japanese constitution has roots in both, historical roots in both Second World War and also Sino-Chinese War. The way they define their people, the way they see the state, and they have clearly mentioned, Japanese constitution is slightly different from the Chinese one, that they did mention these wars with different countries and declare that there's no, Japan is not going to be involved in any war in future. And that's why it's very important, and I think very connected to all those who are very much interested in constitutions in Southeast Asia or East Asia. So that was answer to your first question, that why history topic is here, with the law, because I myself was very interested in this thing, and that's the reason that I chose to be discussing for this topic. Now, the other things, I think I will slightly make comments on the methodology, and then the data resources, and then the approaches. So when it comes to methodology, I wonder if you thought about so first is, what is your, so I can clearly see that there's a comparative historical method you are applying. So you are comparing over a time, and then you are comparing across the case studies. But what I am somehow, I can see the similarities, the shared history approach I can clearly see. Definitely there is a shared long-standing history, a shared history approach. But I wonder if there are any differences. Is there any criteria, any specific criteria on the base of which you are comparing only these two countries? And why is it important for our understanding of war? Why is it like, why should we compare these two countries to expand our knowledge about the nature and scope of war and its implications for people? So that was, I somehow thought I was a bit not clear. So I thought you would help us clarify this thing. The second thing is the sources. So for example, for this research, what are your resources and how you're going to get access to that. Because, I mean, when it comes to Japan, I can understand it's relatively easy. So the access to data sources, the archival data sources, is easy to get, to access that thing. But when it comes to China, it could become difficult to get access to archival sources. So maybe you can add to our knowledge if it's true or if I'm wrong about that, and if I'm right about that. So how you're going to meet that challenge. And then the third thing is approach. What's your approach? Do you see these two countries as post-colonial countries or colonial powers? So what's that framework within which you want to investigate the nature and scope of power? So these are the things I was not completely sure about that from your slides presentation and the abstract. So I wonder if you could help us understand that thing. Then there are the other slides and the figures, the individual figures. I think you really need to think about how you can draw the connection between these individuals and the big picture, like the importance of the individuals and their contribution to the understanding, the academic theoretical understanding of war. That connection I think you may wish to clarify during your research. Other than that, I really enjoyed it. I think it's now I can understand, when I was studying these two constitutions and trying to compare why specific words have been used, why there are strange provisions there. It became very clear, all these from your discussion. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Should I just answer the question now, or waiting for the other question? Okay. There's a lot of questions. I think there's at least 4 questions from you, and the first one is about constitution. First, I'm not really a expert on constitution, and it's not really involved, or even in my preparation. But I can talk a little about it. No constitution will allow this country to fight the other countries. Not really from the common sense of human, isn't it? But it depends on how do you understand the constitution, and I think it's not. I'm not saying it's just a paper; it don't really have any value. I'm not saying that. It's like depends on. For example, you mentioned the Chinese. I might more familiar with the Chinese constitution. You mentioned it's like the 民族especially the nationalism in Chinese constitution. It's like, for example, the very first thing that Kuomintang government done when they just take over become the central government of China, they tried to eliminate all the foreign concessions in China, because trade is a kind of invasion. You have a super I forgot the word. You have superpower. You in my territory have your own law. Is on fire? I'm gonna fix it. That's the part of the nation. So they, for example, there's many conflict between the Kuomintang government and the foreign power in Shanghai, in Nanjing, in Tianjin. There's a lot of them. They try to kick them off, and that's because it raises a kind of conflict, but it's based on the very center spirit of their constitution. But it's not like break the peace. It's like how do we explain the constitution? Also about how the people's mind, how people think about what kind of policy they support. It's very related to the current political situation, I think. So it's you have a lot of space to explain, to push their policy. So I think that's of course, the constitution is the very backbone of a country, but it doesn't mean it's like everything firm, everything within the frame. It's like have different perspective. Like the war, we have a lot of perspectives to discuss it. I think that's my attitude from a history study. Now, the first question, could you please remind me your second question?
The second question was about how are you going to access the data sources? So what are your data sources and how you're going to access that?
Oh yeah, you mentioned that the archive in China could be difficult to touch. It's yes, you really know this kind of things in China. We definitely have all the Chinese history study have historian may face the same problems, that they have very restrict control over their archive. But China also have their own history study. They also use archive. They maybe sometimes, for example, Nanjing University is one of the best university of history. They can reach a lot of archive. And the number two, historical archive, we cannot. They can reach a lot of abundant things we can't read. But even except them, we still get a lot of sources. Government archive, they declassified, and I think it's from 1990s. The archive is the main source we have, especially when we talk about government. Also, newspaper also very important things we can use, because at that moment, the media, they should have, I can say many of them, especially the big press, they have connection within the government. They can get some information. Even sometimes before Japanese, they can get information from Chinese government directly. So, especially, if you don't mind me to say that, they have the kind of, because the turbulence in China, the central government do not have such control like today. So there's a kind of speech freedom in that moment. You can certainly find some interesting, valuable thing from the newspaper. Also, the oral history is an important part in history study. People who, take their time, donate 10 years, decades to do oral history, they record the people who experienced that event. That's the very, very important memory we can remain. But for the Japanese, I can talk a little bit about Japanese, because Japanese archive is more open and free access by NDL. It's like National Digital Library by the Tokyo. Oh no, not Tokyo. It's like a National Library of Japan. They have a lot of digital sources. They have East Asian database. They have their foreign office also open a lot of sources. Also, archive, they're gonna the historian or the archivist gonna collect them, arrange them, try to write them to book. That's very important. So, but especially for the what we call modern history, we just have a bunch of sources far than I can read for my lifetime. So the source is not very huge. Sorry. Yes. That's about the sources. Yes. And
okay.
Another question is about the framework of
I'm just wondering about I may need to intervene because we probably only have 5 minutes left. So I'm anxious that the other people present may have a question or two, and in which could you just remind Nauman of the third question, and then perhaps we could keep that.
I think he has already answered the question in response to my data sources. So we should I think
let's open up then to see.
Let's go to Ying. I think it should be better. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Over to you then, Ying, if you're able to do that, please.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you and we can watch you.
Thank you very much for the comments from Nauman and the talk from Peilin. It's a very interesting topic, I think. you showed us some historical incidents and social organizations and key figures of that period. And from your talk and the abstract and slides that Nauman sent to me, I can see the complex dynamic relationship between the society and the government. So I'm just curious about one question. Maybe it is a little irrelevant. I'm just curious about your understanding. So from your understanding, do you consider the term social organization to be a political concept or a social concept? Yeah.
Sorry, what social concept and
And yeah, the term that social organizations, do you consider the term to be a political concept or a social concept?
Oh, thank you so much for your question. It's a very interesting question. I think I cannot define a term is a social concept. It can understand by different perspective. So I can understand through a social perspective to talk about its relationship with people, how they do their social welfare, how to engage with people's public life, create a kind of social space. I can talk about it in the social scale, but also I can talk about the political scale, by how is relationship with the government, different political power, who's the figure of in the organization who also played some kind of important role in some kind of historical events. It depends on my study is more political. I think is the talk about social organizations relationship with the political powers. So I think it's more political in my study. Hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you for your explanations. I know it's very hard to draw a line between the conceptions,
yes.
But thank you for your answer.
Okay, I think we've reached that stage when our time is nearly up. I'm afraid the time has gone very quickly, which is usually a good indication of how interesting and absorbing the event has been. So I had certain reflections. You were talking at one point about the status of war or armed conflict and what was happening there. It certainly made me think of, although I studied a long time ago, that the public international law has certain tests as to what is a war or armed conflict. There's international law regulating those matters. I was thinking of this, you mentioned, of course, Ukraine, but Crimea may be a better example from 2014 when unofficially Russian forces were obviously present in Crimea, and only that was acknowledged later. Look, I think it's time for me to draw matters to a conclusion, not least of all because I think there is another GSN event coming up at 3 o'clock, and I should leave the organisers the opportunity to get to that. I put in the chat details of the next event in this series, which is next week. I think, is it next week or the week? My date, it's next Wednesday, isn't it? But it remains, I think, for us all to thank very much indeed Peilin for his very interesting paper and to wish him every success going forward with his PhD studies, which look to be tremendously useful and interesting and exciting. So we wish you every success going forward, and thank you very much for today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your precious hour in such a sunny day.
Good luck with the studies going forward. Okay, bye-bye, everyone.